And this is a look from earlier today. You can see that thick black smoke. This must have been, the crash happened just before 10 o'clock this morning. This is probably video from just a few minutes after that. And you can see, Stephanie, that thick black smoke. At one point, that smoke was so thick that you could not see from our crew at the scene there, the air traffic control tower, which I know if you've been down there at Mid-Continent, and just to know that the smoke was that thick. But fire crews definitely attacked that fire, as you can see there from above with the ladders and hoses, and also using a fire foam at one point to get in there. They had some hydraulic fluid inside. The flight safety building holds flight simulators, which they use the hydraulic fluid to run those. And so they were concerned about that, obviously, after the initial concern of getting all those 100, possibly some people outside safely. Miraculously, with all this going on at Mid-Continent, air traffic has not been affected. But again, as Stephanie mentioned, you will need a boarding pass to gain access to the terminal there. Airport Road is closed at this point. Lots of traffic, intersections nearby there are closed. But with all that going on, we've seen jets even taking off in some of the video and hearing them. So it's just amazing that with the response time and the way to handle that situation, that air traffic hasn't even been affected.
We have Craig Andrus out at that complex. He's been there all morning. He joins us now with the very latest. Craig.
And Stephanie, you know, earlier we talked with a gentleman who works across the street from this flight safety building and heard the low-flying aircraft before it crashed. And one of the first things he said was that he was amazed by the response time, just the time that people got there and got the people out, and it was an orderly evacuating process. And just he was so impressed. I mean, there have been so many departments. I know Deputy Spear there mentioned a couple of them, but we've had, you know, the FBI out here, the KHP, the WPD, the airport safety people, a lot of people, 50 to 60 Wichita firefighters alone taking care of the situation.
Really a large response. And I don't know if people understand that the airport has its own fire and police force. Of course, they get help from Wichita Police, Wichita Fire, and Sedgwick County as well. They have their own force, well trained right there, so they can be there at a moment's notice.
Right.
I know when John Spear mentioned FBI, my ears kind of perked up. People want to jump to the conclusion that maybe this had terrorism to do with it because a plane hitting a building. He would not comment on that, but really there have been no indications at this point. He said it's just protocol to have FBI there, so missing.
Could be a challenge with all that chaos going on there at the scene. And we just showed you a photograph of the building on fire taken by that John Weaver. We talked to him earlier. The intense flames, the fire chief himself called it a horrifically intense fire. So you know when a fire chief says that, just that thick black smoke. And this is a shot from earlier from our crew when they got to the scene there. And it's not quite as black smoke there, but you can still see there is a lot of thick smoke, and the crew's fighting using, you know, the ladders and the hoses to just attack it from the top, because they tried, you know, fought it for about a good half hour inside, and the chief said, no, we got to pull these guys out because of that intense fire. The structure was questionable. Thank you, Brittany. I know Brittany mentioned the medevac helicopter that they're just seeing there on the scene, the disaster vehicles responding. It kind of speaks to the collaborative effort that all these emergency responders are having, and also for the family members. This is a kind of a tough time for not only those emergency crews, but those family members. You know, authorities saying that if you have a family member who works out there at the flight safety building, or you know is going to be in that area today, and you cannot get a hold of them, they're asking you to go to 1780 South Airport Road. Again, that's 1780 South Airport Road. And for the rest of us, we just need to avoid that area because those family members are trying to get through. Emergency responders are trying to do their job, and just to have some understanding and let people do the job that they need to do. It's a tough situation for a lot of people out there at the airport.
Oh, you bet. Now let's show you again a picture of what we're talking about.
Sure. I mean, we've gone from, you know, the chief saying horrific fire, which again, strong language there, to this significant collapse. Those flames so intense that they made the situation dangerous for firefighters. They could really only get inside to fight that blaze for about 30 minutes before the chief had to pull them out because of those structural issues. Now, saying that there are structural issues, they have deemed that it is safe enough for search and rescue to get inside and to search for bodies, but or people or remains, but it is not necessarily safe enough for the crews to be in there to keep, you know, maintaining the fire control there. But we're going to check back in with Craig Andrus, I believe, who is at the scene.
He has an update.
Latest.